Canadian children are stressed out, according to recent research from CAMH, the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. And it's leading to all manner of health issues, from allergies and weight gain to behavior and mood problems. Stuart Shanker is a research professor of psychology and philosophy at York University, and his new book strives to help those dealing with young people feeling the effects of stress who are, quote, apathetic, oppositional, volatile, selfish, and self-centered, easily frustrated and defeatist, negative, and unhappy. I'm out of breath. The book is called Self-Reg, How to Help Your Child and You Break the Stress Cycle and Successfully Engage with Life. And Stuart Shanker joins us now. It's good to have you back in this studio.
Thank you, Steve.
Tell everybody the last time you were here.
We were just trying to figure that out. I'm guessing it was around 2000.
You know, it might even have been before that.
Even before that.
It might have been, yeah. Anyway, it's good to have you back.
You look the same.
Nice try, but anyway.
Okay.
I want to, let's start by putting some numbers on the table here.
Yeah.
This study admittedly is a few years old. Toronto District School Board releasing the results of a large-scale survey. 90% of the students in grades 7 to 11 took part, so that's a lot. And here's what they found. More than half of the students in grades 7 and 8 reported that they felt tired for no reason or had difficulty concentrating. More than 3/4 of the students in grades 9 to 12 reported having these problems. 40% of all students in grades 7 and 8 and 66% of all students in grades 9 to 12 reported feeling under stress. And 63% of all students in grades 7 and 8 and 72% of all high school students said they felt nervous or anxious often or all the time. Let's get into this. What do these numbers tell you?
Well, first of all, I should tell you that Fraser Mustard and I had looked at a number of studies to find out if this was an anomaly.
He's the late childhood education, early childhood education master.
Yeah, we published all that in Early Years Study 2 that was published in 2007. And it appears that the trends that were picked up in the TDSB study are, in fact, not just a phenomenon occurring in Toronto, but across the country, and rural as well as urban. Yeah. So what we wanted to know, and we've been studying this for a while now, is there some sort of underlying factor? And it appears to be heightened stress reactivity, too much stress in their lives. Of course, kids do need stress. They need a certain amount of stress to learn, to exercise. But with too much stress, you start to get that list of mental health and behavioral problems that you mentioned.
Any reason to believe the numbers today are higher than they might have been 25 or 50 years ago?
That's a question that we look at pretty carefully, and I go through that step by step in the book. There's no simple explanation, but the reality is that when we look at stress, stress is not well understood, at least not in the original scientific sense. So we break stress down into 5 domains. We look at biological stress. So for example, we have stresses right now, you and I, with these lights. We look at emotional stress, which is the common one. We also look at cognitive stress, and that's not well understood. And we look at social stress, and then finally something called prosocial stress. The reason I mention it is we see really quite significant increases in all 5 of those domains. And they start to interact with each other. They have a multiplying effect on each other. So that when you get something like that TDSB report, what it's telling us is these kids are caught in something called a stress cycle. And it's very hard for them to break out of it.
Let's just do a quick follow-up on there. You say the lights and the sort of the fake TV environment, obviously, that we find ourselves in right now, it can be stressful.
Yeah.
But you're not stressed out, and I'm not stressed out because, well,
it's a great point.
Either we're accustomed to it, or
no, it's a great point.
We kind of get off on a little bit of stress, which makes our jobs a little bit more fun.
So that's like it's sort of like the major point when we start to look at stress, because first of all, every child is different. So what's a stressor for one child is not a stressor for another. And in fact, the lights are not a stress for me, and I assume not for you.
Right.
And so we find like there are children that just absolutely crave the kind of lighting that they'll get, say, in a classroom, but other children that are overstressed from it. So what's a stress for a child, for your particular child, is something you've got to figure out. You have to become like a stress detective.
I understood biological, emotion, cognitive, social, I get all those.
Yeah.
Prosocial, I'd not heard before looking at your book. So what's that?
So that's really interesting because someone else's distress is in fact a stress for a child. They internalize it, they get overloaded by it. And the result can be that they'll shut down their empathy, or they'll shut down their capacity to do something called mind reading, to actually understand what another person's thinking. So that's a prosocial stress.
Let's look at a list of symptoms that you do mention in your book, and this is pretty exhaustive. Here's stress manifesting itself in young people.
Yeah.
They have issues with anger control, antisocial behavior, mindlessly risky behavior. Needless to say, drug, alcohol, and gambling addictions, intentional self-harm, eating disorders, sleep disorders, body image disorders. Are you telling us stress is the underlying cause of all of these things?
No, but what we would say, the causes are, in each of those cases, they're going to be fairly complex. But what we do find is that stress is exacerbated in these conditions. And so what we do is, by working on something called self-regulation, which is how well the child or the teen can recognize when they're becoming overstressed and manage it, we can dramatically mitigate their vulnerability, their susceptibility to that list. So no, we don't want to go into, well, here's the newest single bullet explanation, but this is something that we can work on. And by working on it, we can dramatically reduce the kinds of issues that you just went through.
I'm going to read that list I did in the intro again, because first of all, it's kind of funny to hear it out loud, although there's nothing funny about it. But when you describe kids as being apathetic, oppositional, volatile, selfish and self-centered, easily frustrated and defeatist, negative and unhappy, I mean, that's basically just being a teenager, isn't it?
Yeah. And to some extent, that was one of the first questions we asked. Was this phenomenon that we're looking at today, was it simply because, we're more aware of this, we're looking for this, we've got new categories, or are we seeing, a sort of new phenomenon? And we think the answer is actually a little bit of both. I think back to when I was a teenager, to a lesser extent, I think all of that was present. But what we're seeing now is a sort of increase in the seriousness of how strong the problem is, or how hard it is to recover from it. And it's interfering with those positive stresses that we want kids or teens to engage with, the stresses of school, for example.
As in, it's not bad to feel a little stress if it motivates you to study harder and get better marks.
Absolutely, and we can even give you the neurophysiological explanation of why we do need stress. The problem is, we look at stress, we use this curve, it's called an inverted U curve. And what happens is, when there's too much stress, it starts to impact the child's ability to really benefit from those positive stresses.
One of the things that I'm sure made your, I wouldn't say adolescence, I guess, and my adolescence different from the adolescence of people today is digital technology.
Yeah,
and one has to assume that that has a big role to play in all of this. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. And so now we have studies coming out. I'll just give you one example, but this is a big topic, right? There was a very interesting study that was done in Sweden 2 summers ago. And what they found was that when a kid, for example, plays a violent video game, what happens is this triggers a very ancient part of the brain, which is an alarm system, in effect. And this part of the brain is so stupid, it doesn't really grasp that this is a game. So it responds with adrenaline, it responds with a stress response. The problem that they identified was that, in fact, it takes 4 to 6 hours for that alarm to turn off. So here's a child who, mom and dad say, well, it's lights out, you can play the game for an hour or two, but now it's lights out, not realizing that for the next 4 to 6 hours, that alarm is still going, and that kid is still in a very hyper-aroused state, still burning quite a lot of energy. So,
which explains why the child is not interested in listening to anything mom or dad might say at that point.
Or learning the next day at school, or.
You open up the book with an encounter with a young boy.
Interesting story.
Yeah, whose kindergarten teacher says he's bad.
Yep.
Give us your version of what happened when you met that child.
I did.
And?
I had been giving a lecture down at the Metro Convention Center, and we had thousands of people there. And I was explaining why there's no such thing as a bad kid. And there really isn't. These are just kids. I was going through the neural part of all this, and this little voice from the back yells out, "I got a bad kid." And his dad was a bad guy, and his grandfather's a bad guy. So everybody laughs. And I was just intrigued because, maybe I'm wrong, like, it's an exception to the rule. So I asked her if we could talk afterwards, and I said, "I'd love to visit your school and meet the kid." And he was a 7-year-old, and I was sitting in the office, and who knows what they'd said to him, but the poor little guy was terrified when he came into the office. And as I was watching him, they say, "You're going to go see the doctor." And as I'm watching him, I saw him startle twice, and by noises in the hall. And I also noticed that he was squinting. And these are signs, to come back to what you were talking about before, the squinting is a possible sign that light is a visual stress. So I turned off the lights, closed the door, and I turned off the desktop that was on the table. And then the kid did the most incredible thing. He smiled. And the teacher who was sitting beside me, I tell this in the book, which really made me want to write the book, I hear her say under her breath, "Oh my God."
That's a breakthrough.
Yeah, and then she did something unbelievable.
Which was?
She smiled. And now the two of them have, for the very first time, connected. And at that point, I really felt like I should get out of the room and let them get on with building a relationship.
What a simple solution to a seemingly complicated
a starting
problem.
point. A starting point. And now, obviously, this was a child with sensory issues, and that's what his father had, and that's what his grandfather had. Unfortunately for his dad and grandfather, they weren't addressed, and I guess they did get turned bad.
So what constitutes, in this case, bad? If the child is described as bad, what did that mean?
One of the first things we do when we teach this stuff in our foundations courses is the distinction between misbehavior and stress behavior. This is a huge distinction. And it's really only a distinction that we've been able to draw because of advances made over the last 25 years. Misbehavior means, and that's when you're thinking of the bad kid, misbehavior means that the child really does know what they're doing. The child could have acted differently, had that capacity to have restrained himself, made a different choice. But what happens in stress behavior is those capacities are not there. The child's not aware of what he's doing. The child's not behaving deliberately, intentionally. And if we treat stress behavior as if it were misbehavior, punish or whatever, yell, we raise the stress on the child and we make everything worse for that child.
I can just imagine, though, people watching this saying, "Oh, wait a second, we do know bad kids who grow up to be truants and worse and psychopaths and have no empathy and enjoy hurting people."
Yeah.
I mean, those are bad kids, aren't they?
Those are kids that turn bad. And this part breaks my heart because, I work all over the country now. And, every kid that I see who's gone bad, I find this real hard because we had a chance and we blew it.
Meaning there was a window within which they could have, whatever was ailing them could have been treated.
Yes.
And we missed it.
Yes.
And therefore they're off on a bad road.
And one of the things I love about Canada as a nation, because we do this around the world, is Canada really is committed to giving every child a shot, to trying to, help them realize what their potential is. We are astonished at the changes that occur through something like that teacher that you just mentioned, developing this relationship, figuring out what this child's stressors are, and helping him develop adaptive coping strategies rather than the maladaptive that leads to what you just described, and that is a bad kid.
Can children who obviously have a difficult time with stress learn from those who don't?
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, the secret here is read the book. I don't mean
that's something we tell all our.
But I mean to be realistic. Like there's a lot here, and so you have to sort of understand the theory behind all this, and you have to be able to internalize it. We run these courses now for teachers and parents, and over what they tell us is, "Oh my God, this is about me," and this is an important point, that this method's called Self-Reg, but it really starts with how we manage our own stress. Because if a child does something and let's say I'm upset by it, annoyed, whatever it is, my own limbic arousal, my own arousal, leaks through. And it might leak through in my tone of voice, in my gestures. And if a child is in that stress state, that's what he picks up. That's all he hears. That's all he sees. But when we begin to understand all this, when we are able to look calmly and reflect calmly on the child's behavior, he picks up on that. What surprised us is how young a child can begin to respond and learn from this. Children as young as 3 can learn how to do this. Yeah, I know.
You say he. Is it more often than not he than she?
So it depends, right? It depends on what the cluster, your cluster was sort of slanted towards the behavioral side. And for that, we kind of, we tend to see more boys and girls having this. But I'm very reluctant at this point to draw any kind of gender distinction. For better or worse, it's very difficult now to assign one sort of problem to one gender or another.
Well, let me try this analogy. You know how they say that no child is born racist. You have to learn that from parents, friends, relatives, whatever.
Agreed.
In the same way, are children not born to stress out, but they pick up that behavior from parents, friends, whatever?
To some extent. So that's a good point, and probably I should leave it at that, except that there is an awful lot of, I'll give you an example. So you and I were talking before I came on about how I live on an island. And coming into Toronto was like an assault, a sensory assault. There's people everywhere, construction everywhere. People were yelling at me. Some guy was honking his horn at me. I hadn't done anything.
It's pretty fast, eh, this city?
It's fast, it's intense, and I think about, the effects on a child, So there's a lot of stress. And so we now know that children today are exposed not just to the obvious stresses, but hidden stressors. And those are things that we don't really think of as a stress. So I'll give you a very nice example is soft drinks or sweetened drinks. That is actually a physiological stress because deep inside the brain, there's a little system that we look at as sort of a master system, and it monitors glucose levels in the bloodstream. And too much is a poison. So if a child, as most children are today, is largely drinking either pop or sweetened fruit drink, while they're sleeping, the hypothalamus has to work very hard. It sets in motion the creation of insulin. And so that's an interesting example of a hidden stressor, meaning that the definition of stress is anything that burns energy in order to keep some system working in its optimal range. And that includes salt in the bloodstream. It includes sugar in the bloodstream, things that we don't really think of as stresses, but in fact are.
Let me pick up on something that you referred to earlier in our conversation, self-regulation,
Yeah.
being the foundation of healthy human development.
Yep.
Make that case, if you would.
The most difficult starting point for anyone who's coming into this theory is the confusion of self-regulation with self-control. Self-regulation was a concept that was actually developed in the middle of the 19th century and then picked up at the beginning of the 20th. And what they were really looking at here was how well we can recognize when we're becoming overstressed, meaning burning too much energy, and the kinds of things that we can do in order to replenish, restore our energy, and reduce those stresses. What we have found over and over is that self-regulation, this idea of managing your stress, managing your energy and tension, self-regulation is what makes self-control possible, or in many, many cases, completely unnecessary. In other words, the list that you started with, say heightened impulsivity, that's a classic sign of heightened stress. But if the child can be taught how to recognize when they're becoming overstressed and what to do to reduce it, the impulsivity declines on its own.
You used the word if there.
Yeah.
That suggests that not everybody can be taught to do this.
It suggests that, so what we see is some kids get this like, let's have a little conversation and 10 minutes later they've got it. And some kids it's going to be like I won't name my own children, but sometimes this is going to be a 15 or 20-year learning curve, and each year it gets a little better and there are setbacks. So there is no rule here. Eventually they all get it. one of the things that we have found is even when it seems a child is not getting it, there are, in fact, subtle signs that they are. There are subtle improvements if you just know where to look.
We parents seem today to want the education system to solve all of our problems, our parenting problems, everything. But I presume this has got to start with the parents. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How do we get that message through to parents?
One of the things we run is a parent portal. And so we asked a very simple question at the very beginning, and that was, how are you feeling? How much stress do you have? And we were overwhelmed by a litany of problems that is the sort of parent version of what you were mentioning before I started with. So it could be problems with diet, problems with, I'm overstressed by work. And so the starting point for any parent is to recognize that this is as much about your well-being as it is about your child's. And in
trying to get some parent to realize that they're the beginning of the problem and the solution. That's hard to do.
But if they feel better for this, right? If they find that, I was saying to my wife just yesterday, I was very overstressed because there's so many people who want to do Self-Reg now. And I didn't even realize it until late in the evening. And here I am, the so-called expert on this. But when parents begin to identify their own, where their own self-regulation needs, the whole dynamic in the family begins to change. And then they can start to tune in to, what their child is telling them through their body, through their voice. Forget about the words. It's the actions, the utterances that give us those insights into where my child is and what my child needs.
Obvious question. I'm sure you get it all the time. Do you practice what you preach?
I try to. I do.
How many kids you got?
I've got 2, and I've got one who's great at this and one who is still learning.
How old are they?
15 and 12. And a boy and a girl. So maybe that's part of the reason why you caught me on slipping into the masculine pronoun. But look, one of the big lessons in Self-Reg is, do I slip up all the time? And I'm very kind to myself. I recognize that at the end of the day, I'm a dad and I'm human too, and I'm going to screw up. And when I do, I say I'm sorry. And you know what? They kind of forgive me.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing for a parent to acknowledge that they're not perfect.
Yeah.
Our children like that, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They do. Let's, in our remaining moments here, just let's spend a bit of time here on what the end goal of all this is. Where's it going?
The ideal is that we need children to learn, we talk about these 5 steps of Self-Reg, and the 5 steps are essentially reframing. That's the most important. Recognizing stress behavior for what it is. And that could be little tiny things. It could be that if I get a sudden worry, that's a sign for me that I'm gone into a high tension state. Then they have to identify their stress, reduce their stress. They have to develop the awareness of what it feels like to be calm and enjoy that. And then finally have adaptive strategies to deal with being overstressed. So why? That was your question. And the why is that we cannot predict what the stresses are going to be a week from now, let alone a year. Look at what's happened this past year. This is an extraordinary situation. And we are seeing, there have been some studies that have come out in the US already about the impact that this is having on children's heightened stress reactivity. So the point of self-regulation is to give them these tools so that they will be equipped to deal with stresses that we can't predict, that we can't. And I know that you've got a kid now just finishing off university, and the stresses, to come back to where we started, the stresses on a university today are unlike anything when I went through university. It is very stressful for these kids today. So what we want them to have is this underlying capacity to manage their stress so that what? So that they're happy.
Happiness.
Yes.
Essential reading for parents and educators. Really, really fascinating. Stuart Shanker, professor of philosophy and psychology, York University, and the book, once again, Self-Reg, How to Help Your Child and You Break the Stress Cycle and Successfully Engage with Life. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.